I'll jump into it. Nah, yeah, it is. You're right, Pam. San Francisco is worth more than a day trip. Um, I went down to I think at the harbor. There's a friend of mine. She was, where she went back to visit old friends and stuff in Palo Alto, and we drove all around. Uh, but yeah, dig it. Okay. Um, I don't know. Oh, okay. Yeah, Dolly lived in Prospect Park. Yeah, I lived right by the. Is the SEPTA? Yeah, I think I live right by the SEPTA line, and there was I loved it because I had this third floor walk up, and there was a Wawa right across the street, and then like catty corner to that was a pizza and sub shop, and then I was next to like this Chinese place, and it was right next to a Italian bakery. Like it was just perfect, you know. Well, if I'm ever in San Francisco, I will hit you up, Pam, for sure. Um, as in it, the the drop of I guess the arrest of Prince Andrew. I don't know. It kind of uncorked some things today, and I got thinking about a lot of sort of separate thoughts that I could probably hammer it out into an article, but it would. The fear is if I didn't talk about it, I'd probably stop halfway through. Because it's kind of heavier stuff. So I thought, well, I'll do a live and kind of push it out and, you know, just to get it out. So if I'm all over the place, I do apologize. Um, so, and the thing I thought about today that that's sort of been in the back of my mind, with the Epstein revelations and just how pervasive they are, uh, is the effect that it has sort of had on just, I mean, men and women in general, but really women, which I don't talk a lot about how women should be. I tend to leave that alone. I really focus on men because I am a man, and it's that's really tough a lot of times with seeing everything that's come out, and not a shattering. It's not a shattering kind of thing with. Oh, I didn't think there was a lot of men like that. I just didn't think it would be that pervasive. I mean, I knew there were men out there like that. Um, In fact, a lot of the women in my family have a history of abuse that I've learned over the course of my almost 50 years of being on this planet. Um, my maternal grandmother, that I learned later in life, she had a relationship, I think, with like an Italian man. So this is back in the 1920s. Got pregnant, and then her family made her break that off, have the child in secret, and then basically forced to give the kid up for adoption, and it never, and I think it pretty much wrecked her for the rest of her life. um I learned later that my mom had been abused. We're not sure still who by, um but it was somebody. you know it would come out in little bits and pieces here and there. And my sister opened up to me a couple years ago about her assault that had happened when she was in the army, and she was an officer. Um, and that's not counting the friends I've known, and other people that I've read on this platform, uh, that have come out. And I myself was abused. I was molested in a daycare when I was 5. My abuser was a woman. Um, and I know other friends that have suffered the same kind of thing. You know, um, and I think that's a lot of why I'm very emphatic about things, especially when it comes to masculinity and how men should move through public and, you know, in what ways they should and shouldn't be with women, right? Because I think beyond just the heartbreak of the the abuse and the victims of abuse is, you know, like I'm you you see like a women are losing faith in men, and for good reason. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, it may have always been there, and it's just never really been talked about. You know, because I mean, let's be honest. Men aren't some of the best people for hearing bad news, especially from women. Um, I've not always been that way. You know, especially in romantic relationships. You know, it's just there was a time where I don't want to call it willful ignorance, but it was sort of an obliviousness to it, right? Where you wanted everything to be fine. You wanted everything to be just okay. You didn't want to hear the bad parts, you know? Um, but I think as I've seen this and as this has come out and as more women are speaking out, especially ones that you guys are talking about this in the chat, and I really appreciate that, is I you I want to you want to move through the world, at least I do, in more of an emphatic way. And what I mean by that is you have to present like I think the last thing for men really to hang on to where they have to improve is to be the kind of example of masculinity they want to see in the world. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that from the horrible men. We're starting to see more of it from better men, but we see a lot of it from horrible men. And it's not just people like Prince Andrew because those people tried to cover it. They tried to hide it. But it's these grifters and these horrible people that are leading young men astray. Um, I see more and more young men, like when I'm at the gym or I'm at somewhere else, and it's like, you can obviously tell they're taking, gear, i.e., anabolic steroids, or just how they move, through the world and what they talk about. It's like you're losing an entire generation because of a failure of men my age and mentors that are not speaking up and are not saying what really needs to be said. There's a lot of talk about traditional masculinity, which is just at this day, it's just a code word for being abusive and selfish because it never goes back to a more aspirational and older masculinity, one that revolves around keeping faith and oaths and having integrity. And that's, we don't talk about that. It almost seems like it's antiquated, that you don't have men that push other men to keep faith and keep their oaths and keep their word, to move through the world and be that way. Everything else is just, it's about, when they talk about strength, they talk about just, how much can you bench press? Or how much can you do that? Hey, man, that's all well and good. I used to be as strong as an ox when I was a younger man. I was a mess internally. I was angry. I couldn't keep uh, a girlfriend because I was insecure and I was still recovering from abuse and complex PTSD, all this stuff, you know, and everything else, all this bravado was masking that, you know, and it's this trap that you get caught into, right? Because there is something to be said for, it makes you feel powerful, right? Like how strong you are. But that stuff, it's a flimsy currency for how you move through the world. It is, it's not something that will ultimately lead you to a lasting identity. It will not lead you to a lasting, like any kind of manhood. And that's the thing is you have to move through the world being a good man. You are representing your masculinity to everyone else, women especially. Do you keep faith with your friends? Are you the same way in public as you are in private? If you're not, why not? And that's the problem. The Epstein files are absolutely proof of that because here's all these people who are one way in public, Deepak Chopra, Noam Chomsky, all these people who are one way in public and another way in private. That cannot be the standard of masculinity anymore. Period. It can't. It's not about aggression. It's not about how powerful you can be. It cannot be about abuse. Can't be about any of that anymore. It can't be. It has to be about keeping your word and being better. Keeping covenant with yourself and your moral principles, your friends, your family, your community, your nation. And any man that doesn't do that needs to be held accountable. Period. And we have to hold them accountable. Not women, men. That is what being a strong man is really all about. It's about having good moral principles and standing to them when it is going to cost you. It will cost you the friendship of weak men. It will cost you positions in society. It will cost you privilege that needs to be ripped out anyway, but you have to do it. If you want to be a strong man, that's what it is. Period. So one day you don't find yourself sitting down and a loved one who is a woman who's telling you something horrible. So that can end for your daughters and your granddaughters or your grandsons and your sons. So it can end, so it can lessen. We have to be of service. We have to be of service to others. The world is not ours to just take and do what we want because that's what we're being ruled by now. And look where it's gotten us. We have to take care of ourselves, our people, our communities, and leave the world better than we found it. And I'm sorry, guys, women cannot be made to feel safe unless they feel safe with men. And if they're saying they don't, then they're not. And there's nothing to do with that except try to do better. And that's it. You can't have a better world where we oppress and abuse men, women, and children. You just can't. Yeah. You just can't. Better can't come from bullshit. And there's too much bullshit today. And every time, like, I think, and this is where it gets hard for me, is because I want to put stuff out here. I want to say, like something smart, something to help folks. And it's just a deluge of just awful. And you wonder, like, man, when is this going to end? When is this going to stop? But the thing is, it's it was going on behind the scenes and people knew about it, but now it's out in the open. And it's up to us to decide, what are we going to do with it? And we just have to do better. But it's heavy today. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty heavy today. You know. And if it's heavy for y'all, I understand. Because I'm going through it. And it's just, yeah. I don't know. I thought I'd have more to say than that. But yeah, I don't. So I will say this. We have to give space to women, to oppressed groups, LGBTQ, trans, all, people of color, so they can speak out, and we can get this out in the open, and we can deal with it. You have to be strong enough to hear it, to at least listen. And that is hard, you know? That's hard sometimes, you know. It's hard to carry. But and it's not fair, It's not, you didn't ask for it, or you don't want to be the one to say it, or you don't want to put yourself to the hazard. But you have to. You have to. If you want to think of yourself as a strong man, as someone who stands for something, you have to. I don't know. I think today is like, I just kind of feel drained, and I feel a sense of like loss and grief. I hope more comes out. I hope people get justice, and I'll do whatever I can in my way to advocate for it. because the men that did that, I don't want to live with those men. I don't even want them in the same society as me. We have enough prisons. We can put them there at the bare minimum. So I'll do what I can, even if it's heavy to carry some days. Whew. Anyway, sorry if that wasn't more cogent. I think I'm just going through it today. You know, but I do appreciate you guys dropping in, and I always thank you for all the support. You know, yeah. But as always, keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.